What is going on, guys? It is Wrestlelamia here, back with another video. There's lots going on in AEW, including its World Title Eliminator Tournament, the TBS Championship Tournament, and the promotion's upcoming Full Gear pay-per-view. But did AEW deliver the goods last night? Join us now as we look at this week's edition of AEW Dynamite, as well as the wildest news stories and rumors you need to know, including another WWE release, the Bucks tease Kevin Owens joining AEW, the wrestler's been called out for name-dropping Brodie Lee, an ex-WWE superstar debuts in AEW Dynamite, and much more. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos, and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. Now, as always, we don't recap the whole show, but just look at the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. As always, we start off with the good as number 1, CM Punk's promo. As CM Punk delivered another strong segment when he discussed Jon Moxley going into rehab, then turned his attention to what looks to be a pending program with Eddie Kingston. Punk put over Moxley for entering rehab and used the opportunity to encourage anyone else in Moxley's situation to get help. Punk's conversation didn't seem preachy, and both he and those behind the scenes in AEW deserve credit for using this moment to get the word out that it's okay to ask for help. Punk's from the heart message likely helped more than any artificial public service announcement could ever do. Along the way, Punk also found time to cut a promo on Eddie Kingston, calling Kingston out for this week's Rampage without diminishing the impact of his chat about Moxley. Critics may be unhappy with CM Punk's monologues on AEW television, but it's clear the fans haven't grown tired of him sharing his thoughts with them. Until they do, expect AEW to capitalize on Punk's popularity, and in all fairness, why shouldn't they? Number 2, Miro moves in. A kudos to AEW for finding a good last-minute replacement for Jon Moxley in its AEW World Title Eliminator Tournament. As a former TNT champion, Miro is more than qualified for a chance to win an AEW title shot, and while it's clear he wasn't in the picture, he delivered a solid performance against Orange Cassidy, setting the stage for what should be an engaging encounter against Bryan Danielson at Full Gear. AEW may have more talent than it knows what to do with, but the fact that they have many good substitutions for Jon Moxley shows that an overloaded roster isn't always a bad thing. Number 3, Inner Circle comedy humor. The Inner Circle's confrontation with Dan Lambert was another hysterical segment as Chris Jericho and his fellow wrestlers mock Lambert, America's top team and men of the year, in the build-up for their match at Full Gear. Now, we can't help but note the comparisons between the Inner Circle's organic humor and that of D-Generation X during its heyday. The Inner Circle aren't derivative, however, and have found a way to establish themselves as cool babyfaces who, for all intents and purposes, haven't changed their characters. It's just that the fans can cheer them as they battle wrestlers they don't like, in this case Lambert and company. Number 4, Women's Division improving. Does AEW's Women's Division need improvement? Only a complete AEW shill would say it doesn't, but we acknowledge it's gone from beginning to improve to improving on a weekly basis. The influx of fresh talent is helping, but the women who've been wrestling in AEW for a while are improving, making for a women's division that is far less cringy to watch than just a few months ago. That doesn't mean the division's workers are at A-game level, other than a few main eventers, but they're no longer the butt of the jokes every week as fans spot numerous blunders in the ring. Number 5, Dark Order entertaining. Last night's matches featuring the Dark Order show that the group is more than just a forgettable comedy act, but an enjoyable undercard trope that can deliver in the ring while giving the fans a laugh when appropriate. Despite its difficulties finding direction after the death of the Exalted One, the Dark Order seem to be back on track, and they're another reminder of how much talent there is in AEW. An FTR Open Challenge. FTR's Open Challenge was an excellent example of AEW's willingness to spotlight team wrestling and position it as equally important to singles competition. AEW has wasted no time putting FTR back into the main event now that they're back from injury, and their ongoing series with the Lucha Brothers might even be better than a program with the Young Bucks. FTR's interference in Cody Rhodes' match against Andrade is interesting, and it demonstrates how AEW isn't afraid to have wrestlers crossing over into other programs. This makes for a much more realistic environment, as you never know what strange alliances might form. But that was the good. What about the bad? Is number 1, technical errors. Now, although AEW has a world-class roster of wrestlers, the company's production values are still a step behind the WWE. Last night's show featured a few fails, including one moment when the TNT Championship was displayed with no rhyme or reason. Now, the WWE isn't immune from incidents like this, and thankfully AEW doesn't pan to the crowd during key moments like the WWE does, but last night's show served as a reminder that AEW's production crew still needs a bit of work. And number 2, something was missing. Now, last night's Dynamite was entertaining, but for some reason there was something lacking. Although there was nothing wrong with last night's Dynamite, it seemed to lose a step. Was it the absence of Jon Moxley? Perhaps, but as mentioned, Miro performed well against Orange Cassidy and should be a great opponent for Bryan Danielson. Here the problem lies with how AEW tends to deliver big shows on a regular basis. When you air stacked shows like Grand Slam, subsequent shows are gonna pale in comparison. The WWE saw this recently with NXT 2.0 and its loaded Halloween Havoc, as that did well in the ratings, only for its more or less average show faring less well the next week. How AEW deals with this challenge will be one of the biggest things to watch as AEW undergoes growing pains in its efforts to grow its audience and compete with WWE. Now, there was nothing downright ugly about last night's AEW, as it delivered a solid enough episode. Last night's episode featured plenty of storyline development, including the build-up to Paige vs Omega at Full Gear, the TBS Championship Tournament, FTR's program with the Lucha Brothers, and CM Punk's brewing war with Eddie Kingston. Adding good promos and constantly good wrestling, and you had a solid 2 hours of Dynamite. What did you guys think of Dynamite? Let us know in the comments down below. Now let's move on to the news. Our first story looks at another WWE release. Topping today's news is another big exit at Titan Towers, a situation which has fans and, more importantly, WWE employees asking if anyone's safe in the WWE. Anyone who thought the WWE's employee purges were over got a rude awakening when the company announced the release of a long-time employee. PW Insider's Mike Johnson is reporting that longtime Senior Vice President Creative Services Stan Stansky, who had been with the company close to 15 years, exited the company today. Stansky's departure has been quite the shock as word has traveled around the company this evening. One person described Stansky's departure as the ultimate proof no one is safe, and yet another reminder this isn't the same company it was a year ago. Johnson tracks Stansky's time in the WWE, pointing out that Stansky joined the WWE back in 2006 as Vice President of Creative Sources before being promoted in March 2012 to his SVP position. PW Insider is reporting that there could be more changes to the WWE's corporate structure, with more possible releases coming today. Looking at the WWE's major cuts in staff, it appears the company is looking to go with an entirely new approach to how the WWE operates. Whether this is part of the plan for putting the company up for sale or an attempt to grow the WWE into a bigger entity, something major is going on with the WWE's corporate offices, and we'll continue monitoring the situation. Next up, the Young Bucks tease Kevin Owens joining AEW. Where will current WWE superstar Kevin Owens end up when his WWE contract expires early next year? While KO is keeping fans guessing, former AEW World Tag Team Champions the Young Bucks are doing their best to tease Owens joining them in AEW. Now, Matt and Nick Jackson had some fun with their Twitter bio, hinting at Owens jumping ship to join them. Ringside News reported, the Bucks bio was changed to read MROW. This is an acronym for Mount Rushmore Wrestling, the name of the PWG stable that included the Bucks, Adam Cole and Owens. While there's a strong case to be made that AEW's talent roster is already too big, AEW President Tony Khan seems interested in signing top stars regardless of how many slots are left. At this point, AEW may have to create a 10-man tag team title in order to feature its top stars on a regular basis. Next up, Kyle O'Reilly leaving WWE. Is former Undisputed Era member Kyle O'Reilly exiting the WWE? That's the question being asked as PW Insider's Mike Johnson is reporting O'Reilly's contract will be expiring sometime before the end of 2021. Will he join both teammates Bobby Fish and Adam Cole in AEW, or is he about to go somewhere else, or maybe just re-sign up with WWE? What do you guys think? Let us know in the comments down below. Next up, was AEW shifting Jon Moxley's character? While Jon Moxley's recovery is the only important news concerning AEW star, Dave Meltzer is reporting that AEW was looking to change up Moxley's character prior to him entering alcohol treatment. Meltzer didn't elaborate on whether this might have been a heel turn or adjustment to his current persona. And finally, a wrestler's been called out for name-dropping Brodie Lee. And last but not least, former WWE superstar Kalisto debuted on Dynamite in his new persona Chimera del Sol, but he got off on a wrong foot when he tweeted a shout out to the late great Mr. Brodie Lee. Del Sol tweeted, "Pray to talk to John Brodie Lee before my match. Thank you for showing me your home at AEW and giving me the strength and energy. I need it today. Forever you're in my heart, hermano." Del Sol's undoubtedly well-intentioned tweet caught the attention of AEW star Chris Jericho, who pointed out, "You spelled his name wrong." And Jericho was referring to Del Sol spelling John Huber's name as John, unlike Jon, but like any and all matters, the Twitterverse joined in, defending Del Sol with some fans criticizing Le Champion for being too picky. Amanda Huber pointed out, yeah, not an excuse to spell someone's name wrong if you're name dropping. She then went on to explain, why is that? I feel like it's responsible to expect a level of respect of spelling someone's name right if you want to name drop them. Now, it's important to point out that English isn't Del Sol's first language, and it's commonly spelled John in Spanish. Did they overreact? Let us know in the comments down below, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.